Good morning and welcome to Fountain Street Church. My name is Reverend Christopher Rowe, and I am the Minister for Spiritual Life and Learning. And on behalf of our spread out yet ever-connected community, welcome to Fountain Street Church. This morning we continue our journey through the summer speaker series that is put together by the Religious Services Committee by welcoming Connie Winter-Troutwine to the virtual pulpit. As you can tell, I'm in the woods, and it's beautiful, and it's scenic, and it's life-giving, and it's nurturing. Connie's words this morning will center around nature and the natural world, and she asked me specifically if I could record my pieces of the service out here for all of you today. So I not only oblige, I offer her gratitude back for forcing me into nature and into this healing space with all of you. On behalf of Religious Services Committee, on behalf of Danny Heck, and on Connie Winter-Troutwine, and on behalf of Phil Fletcher, and of course myself, welcome to Fountain Street Church. I'm so glad that you give a little bit of your Sunday morning to be with us. I'm glad you're here.
Live humble as a dog, and the world will come alive in your mouth. The day I brought my golden retriever home as a pup, I had no idea that she would become my teacher. She was 7 weeks old and slept in my shirt the whole way home. I could feel her small rhythmic exhalations like a tiny animal wind warming my heart. Day by day, I came to understand her sheer, complete, and constant presence. I never knew anything to be so thoroughly involved in the moment at hand, so innocently devoted to whatever was before her. If she was rolling in the grass, the world was the grass and the feel of the roll. If she was circling the rug to lie down, life was solely the want to curl and sigh. I came to envy my puppy's ability to be completely wherever she was. I also came to understand how she knew the world through touch, primarily through her mouth. Without the hesitation that plagues humans, she stuck her snout in everything, and this immediate knowledge of things gave her joy. This little dog, incapable of words, taught me that there is an inexpressible feeling of foundation that comes from staying directly connected to the earth, a humility that comes from directly touching whatever we are experiencing. This direct connection helps bring things alive. It is refreshing. In this way, the energy of the world floods through whatever moment we dare to enter fully. So, as you experience today, and as details come alive for you, the light on a branch, the slickness of a puddle, the reverence of life, try to touch the simple things that call to you. Breathe deeply and nose your heart into the day.
One of today's readings comes from Rob Walker in his book, The Art of Noticing, 131 Ways to Spark Creativity, Find Inspiration, and Discover Joy in the Everyday. Annotate the world. The Wadsworth House, built in 1726, and now used for administrative offices, is one of the oldest buildings on Harvard University's campus. In the past, it served as the home to a number of university presidents, whose names were later listed on a blocky gray monument just outside. In 2015, someone added a pink sheet of paper to that monument, serving as a real-world annotation. It read, "This house was also a place of enslavement." Among those held in bondage in this building were Titus, Venus, Juba, Billa. Titus, Venus, Juba, and Billa were slaves owned by a couple of the Harvard presidents, listed on the monument just above the pink sheet. This was the work of the Harvard and Slavery Project, spun out of a seminar at the school dedicated to exploring the neglected subject of slavery's role in the school's legacy. As debates about the institutional role of history divide campuses nationwide, the online publication Atlas Obscura reported at the time, annotating monuments has become one way for students to comment on their school's commemorative choices without erasing them. Students at both the University of Missouri and William and Mary in Virginia have covered statues of Thomas Jefferson with sticky notes that detail some of his less heroic attributes. Whether as a form of protest or education or both, the real word annotation offers a new filter for the world. What landmark or monument do you already know that tells a story of itself, but not the whole story? What would you add for others to learn? And as you encounter new landmarks and monuments, what questions can you ask to find out more that might currently be hidden, or at least left out? Less than a year after that original annotation was posted on the Wadsworth Monument, Harvard added a permanent stone plaque to the building, memorializing the 4 slaves and making the annotation part of the official story.
There's a tradition called forest bathing, where you quite literally go into the woods and bathe yourself in the natural world. Whether you're lying on a blanket on the forest floor or just spending time walking through, there are these healing properties that nurture our souls and renew our spirits. Maybe this morning you're not out in the woods bathing like I might be, but there are other ways in which we each bathe ourselves in things that are good and whole and true and life-giving and nourishing and renewing. This morning, as we take the offering, I also invite you to think about that which gives you renewal and gives you strength. What is it you choose to bathe in? Maybe you can't run outside right now. Maybe it's unrealistic for you to do something all that epic. But for just a moment, in the stillness of the music and in the stillness of our collected gifts, bathe yourself in something, in anything. But let yourself be still and know that you deserve that much in a world that can sometimes be confusing or overwhelming or even a little noisy. With the spirit of generosity, with the spirit of a unified community through our ingathered gifts, I now invite you to bathe yourself in stillness and to give freely as the offering will now be taken.
Well, welcome. Thank you for joining me this 26th day of July 2020. As I am recording this talk, I am imagining all of your welcoming faces out there in front of me. I do thank you for attending Fountain Street's summer series. Before I get started, I want to sincerely thank Christopher Rowe Danny Heck, Dick Wood, Mary Lou Smith, Carolyn Kempter Morrison, Meredith Bradley, Nessa McCasey, and Jim Winter-Troutwine. I would not have been able to present my talk without their unbelievable assistance and guidance. I will be blending two words or two feelings together, awareness and reverence. When I settled upon placing these words together, my first thought was, I have got to be kidding. How am I possibly going to accomplish this task? When I think of awareness, I automatically come up with alertness, attention, consciousness, experience, perception, and understanding. I also came up with aliveness, mindfulness, and reverence. Being a retired speech and language pathologist, I have presented many a student with lessons on understanding the concepts of who, what, where, when, how, and why, which correlate well with vision, touch, smell, hearing, taste, and also feelings. So in thinking about these concepts, we are constantly aware of so many things. For example, the temperature of the room in which you are seated, whether you're feeling content, rushed, or uncertain. The sound of music may be playing quietly in the background in your home. The lovely aroma and taste of coffee or tea as you join us this morning. You might even be aware of how nervous I look. So welcome to awareness. I recently read the book Coop by Michael Perry. Here the author is thinking back to his marriage vows. Michael describes so beautifully his connection between awareness and reverence. Tonight, as we revisit the words we promised each other that day, gratitude, devotion, trust, unity, my eye is continually drawn back to reverence and how the animation of the word requires more than simple respect or careful talk. I am thinking reverence requires presence and attention, and that I must bestow reverence on my wife if I wish it to fall gently on my children. Looking up from the vows between us, I see a delicate brown fleck set against the blue of Annalise's right eye. I discovered the fleck the first time Annalise allowed me in close, but haven't noticed it in some time. I need to look at my wife in the eye more often. One of the major ways in which I develop my awareness is through kayaking. Now, I realize that the ability to kayak requires money and transportation to the source of water. By the time you've purchased your kayak, along with your life jacket and your emergency gear, such as your paddle float, pump, and tow belt, not to mention the needed vehicle to transport your stuff to the water, kayak racks, and gas, you have a rather large investment. And on top of this, if you're smart, of course, you'll take lessons, and that adds up even more. So as much as I love this sport, I realize that it's an elitist activity and that I am most fortunate to be able to partake of its joys. I hope I don't take my ability to fully enjoy this sport for granted, because if I do, then the enlightenment, awe, and mindfulness that I receive while kayaking is not real or respectful, and I have gained very little in my life and given away even less. Along with kayaking comes my love for photography, another expensive endeavor. I'm an amateur photographer at best, but I love it just as much and maybe even more than kayaking. The combination of the two affords me the luxury and the freedom of experiencing new habitats with all of their parts, functions, smells, sounds, and textures. When it comes to kayaking, I like the two extremes of kayaking, whether it be in large open waters like our Great Lakes or slow moving rivers and quiet lakes. I seem to revel in both quite easily. Plus, when you have your spouse and great kayaking friends, it's virtually perfect. When sea kayaking in large open water, most of my photographs are of large objects like landscapes, rocks, cliffs, and even icebergs. Only when I am on land am I afforded the time and luxury of photographing objects up close. Those quiet lakes and rivers allow me much more time to shoot those elusive turtles, snakes, currents, and reflections. It's the close-up or macro photography that I enjoy the most because I get to observe the intricacies of each item. But many times I don't even appreciate these details until I have downloaded the photos onto my laptop. Just the other day, I took a photograph of a yellow flag, an invasive aquatic flowering plant. Not until I got home and looked closely at the shot did I realize that there was a rather large stink bug-like insect resting on one of the petals. The photo itself was not a macro shot, so I cropped it so that only part of the petal and the entire insect were seen, essentially making it look like a macro shot, but without the clarity. I find that observing things closely, I am able to understand the object's blending of coloring and its parts more easily. My photography almost forces me to look for more detail and to hopefully take the necessary time to attend, with the bottom line of having taken a worthy photograph. Now, I would consider myself to be a rather competitive kayaker. When I am paddling with a particularly large group of paddlers, I like to start out in the front, but then I quickly end up getting farther and farther behind because I am stopping to look at things that catch my attention, usually leading to taking some photos. Then I will quickly paddle up close to the front again, since I like to also use kayaking as a workout, and start the process all over again. So you already know that I am competitive, observant, and that I like to be in the front. Not all great attributes. Although I can easily give reverence to nature, animals, and young children, I have a much more difficult time identifying my reverence for people. It's easy to look at a photo and name off its attributes, sit on the floor with a young child and engage them in a fun activity, listen to music to appreciate the lyrics and instrumental qualities. But for me, putting the reverence for nature, animals, and young children with really listening to people is a more challenging task. As Mark Nepo relates in his book, The Book of Awakening, if we can outlast the urge to judge everything we encounter, a miracle starts to surround us in which painting, music, poetry, running water, flowers, wind through trees, open vistas, all touch and draw out their counterpart that lives quietly within us. The 19th century poet Gerard Manley Hopkins called this inner terrain inscape. Just as no landscape can flourish without sun and water, our inscape must be irrigated and drenched with many forms of life if we are to thrive. So when feeling stuck or disconnected from the miracle of life, as will happen to us all, try to listen, see, feel, and just take in. Try to let the energies of life stir their counterparts in you. In order to be whole, suspend your criticism. For life is not a matter of taste, but of awakening. Not a matter of finding things pleasing or disturbing, but of finding things completing, not a matter of liking or disliking, but of opening the geography of one's soul. This is what I need to put into practice when listening to people. As suggested by the composer, Pauline Oliveros, expand your attention to include everything that you can possibly hear without judgment. The ear hears. To listen is to give attention to what is perceived, both acoustically and psychologically. I am reminded by a beautifully simple yet profound poem written by Fountain Street's own Nessa McCasey called Becoming Everyday. Amidst my grounded forest of peace, refusing agony and looking intently into the balm of light, my funny endeavor, obsessed with unraveling any schism, rebirths me into a joyous mystery, a self-aware obligation. Persevere and surrender. I live on Attention Road. Let me read that to you again. Amidst my grounded forest of peace, refusing agony and looking intently into the balm of life, my funny endeavor, obsessed with unraveling any schism, rebirths me into a joyous mystery, a self-aware obligation. Persevere and surrender. I live on Attention Road. Very sweet, isn't it? I'm going to be showing you 48 of my photographs in a 6-minute show. Don't worry, it will go quickly. You will have 4 to 5 seconds to view each photo. You must stay awake. When observing these photos, search for the details. I have chosen photographs of mine that hopefully evoke feelings of joy, uncomfortableness, humor, strangeness, feelings of confidence, perhaps even smugness. And sometimes your observations might discover reverence. Please try not to look at these photos as a slideshow of Connie's family and friends, but as a means to help us all value life in all of its intricacies. Some of these photos are just okay in their quality. Some are really good. But I am showing you these photos so you can develop your awareness of the object's attributes, not for the quality of the photo. So look for the details, look for the reverence, whether it be in nature or in humanity. But most importantly, pay attention to your own feelings. I'll see you on the other side after viewing these photos. Well, welcome back. I truly hope that you were able to view the photos and pick up on some good feelings and attributes. Well, I'm coming into the home stretch now, but before my conclusion, it is important to me that I make one more vital connection for you via Maya Angelou. Her poem On the Pulse of Morning speaks of awareness and of reverence for all life, magically blending the two together. This is a rather lengthy poem of hers, so I'm only going to be reading the last third of it. On the Pulse of Morning by Maya Angelou. I, the rock. I, the river. I, the tree. I am yours. Your passages have been paid. Lift up your faces. You have a piercing need for this bright morning, dawning for you. History, despite its wrenching pain, cannot be unlived. And if faced with courage, need not be lived again. Lift up your eyes upon the day breaking for you. Give birth again to the dream. Women, children, men, take it into the palms of your hands. Mold it into the shape of your most private need. Sculpt it into the image of your most public self. Lift up your hearts. Each new hour holds new chances for new beginnings. Do not be wedded forever to fear, yoked eternally to brutishness. The horizon leans forward, offering you space to place new steps of change. Here on the pulse of this fine day, you may have the courage to look up and out upon me. The rock, the river, the tree, your country, no less to Midas than the mendicant, no less to you now than the mastodon then. Here on the pulse of this new day, you may have the grace to look up and out and into your sister's eyes, into your brother's face, your country, and say very simply, with hope, good morning. So in conclusion, here we are partway through the summer. All of us are continuing to make our way through the pandemic. Some of us consider that we have made our way through this horror and are rejoicing. And yet, some of us really feel that we have made our way, only to discover that we are emotionally distancing ourselves from others, driven by fear and uncertainties. As we make our way through this world, through our city, through our relationships, how will we survive? Will we use the necessary awareness to move forward? The awareness that feeds our soul rather than frightens it? Will we take the time to inhale beauty rather than ignore it? Taking the time to revere nature, art, architecture, feelings, but most importantly, people. So when given this gift of reverence, can you envision your hand reaching to scoop up the silky water, the underside folds of a mushroom, or to rest on the shoulder of a friend? Blessed be.
My friends, thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you to Connie Winter-Troutwine for your words for us this morning. Thank you to Danny Heck for the work you put into making these services possible. Thank you to Phil Pletcher for your gift of music. Thank you to the Religious Services Committee who bring us this series summer after summer. And also thank you to all of you, the people that call this your spiritual home. On behalf of our spread out but ever connected community, go in peace. Go bathed in whatever brings you life, and go knowing that you are loved by this church. Until next week, stay healthy, stay resilient, and know how missed you all are. Be well, my friends.